without further ado, let's get to the poem recap. A Cowboys game on Monday night with the Simpsons stream should have been a treat. But after the final whistle, there was an occurrence worse than the Cowboys' defeat. It was the injury to Overshown. Oh, how cruel this game of football can be. Agent Zero is now out for the season due to the damage to his right knee. With another L, questions will swirl about the future of head coach Mike McCarthy, as his final redemption, known as playoff qualification, looks almost out of reach. All right, so Rudy, let's dive into this game. Obviously, like I mentioned in the poem, my biggest takeaway was damn. Losing Overshown, and I think we even talked about it this season during our losing streak. Like, bro, let's just hope that all the studs that are showing out this season, which is mainly just Overshown, stay healthy for this season. So, just a tragedy. I mean, I'm not trying to act like he's gone, but like,
dude,
he's out
every week we come on this podcast and talk about how he's the highlight of the defense. He's just a pleasure to watch, in all honesty. And so for him to be gone, one, of course, for the fans it sucks, but for him to go through that injury when we know he missed his rookie year as well, it's devastating. And the fact that the injury is occurring in December, it's going to chip into next year heavily. So it's just unfortunate.
Yeah, and another thing too, going a little bit behind the scenes, that man was making every final day graphic or social media graphic too, and on basically all of our thumbnails, because that man was making play after play every week. So
I don't think we've
big
had
miss.
I think between you, me, and Mr. X, there's never been someone to get consensus player of the week as frequently as he's gotten in his first year actually playing pro football. So that's it's a shame. It's a shame. He was a pleasure to watch for this season.
Yeah. And also just as defeating was the loss to the Bengals. And I think we all saw that by Micah Parsons' reaction and his post-game comments. And it does put a halt on the, albeit short, but winning streak that the Cowboys had. And I don't know, it is kind of a big blow to what Micah had envisioned, which was a playoff push. I don't know if you really entertained that idea. I would just like the positive momentum is definitely halted now.
Yeah, I mean, as far as that goes, I like my players always trying to win. Even let tanking come down to the GM and like front office stuff. I want my players always going 100%, but I will say I'd never entertained the playoffs as soon as Dak went down. I just never believed in Cooper Rush. And at that point, too, our run game was very idle. And, it's night and day on that. And in our defense, it hadn't synced up, clicked. We were still missing players. So when Dak went down, I completely gave up on the playoffs. And while the last 2 weeks they made it, still they kept that door open a little bit. I never really entertained that it'd fully swing wide open.
Yeah, I didn't give up on the playoffs, but I definitely thought that making any type of run in the playoffs was out with Dak being hurt. So now there is like a couple of repercussions, not to mention the lower playoff percentage of the Cowboys making it, but also the Mike McCarthy returning. But before we get into that, let's focus on the game and how it all unfolded and how it went to an L. Personally, I think, and kind of how we talked about, I think, last week, is that this game would come down to, with Joe Burrow being the quarterback that he is, I thought that the game would come down to either a weird play going in Cowboys' favor to get the dub. Now, that play did happen. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. It didn't go our way. It went just the opposite way, and it went the Bengals' way. And that's kind of what won the game, in my opinion, was just that one play, which is what I thought was going to happen. I just thought it was going to happen in our favor. But after the game, there has been a lot of talk and takes suggesting that Mike McCarthy's offensive play calling was the main culprit and had a lot to do with the L that the Cowboys took. I'm of the other mind, the former, that no, it just came down one unlucky play and he didn't get it. The bounce didn't go our way. But I'm curious to know what you thought.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta disagree with you. I don't think you lose an hour-long game on one play. That, quite frankly, they were still in their own end of the field. You have the opportunity defensively to make a play. So no, I don't think that Oyawari, that's how you say his name, right? I mean, he made a
Close enough.
boneheaded play there. He squared up like he was about to scoop this up and score. Which he got way too ahead of himself. He saw Wanye in Washington and was like, "I'll do it too." But no, I
There's a
don't
little bit
think you
more bang
lose
bang, but
a little more, but I don't think you lose that game just solely on that play. Did it have a major impact? Of
Mhm.
course, because it came in a clutch moment. But if that play happens in the second quarter, we're not sitting here saying we lost the game because of that exact play. I think you kind of gave up on your run game. I really do look at Mike. I don't understand how you can have a run for 13, a run for 7, a run for 6, run for 4, which honestly is perfectly fine. And then you bust out a 20-yard run. And then you go, you know what? It's a tight game. It's close. I want Cooper Rush winning me this game. There were 2 3 and outs where of the 6 total plays, 4 or 5 were passes, and we went nowhere. Of course, it was baffling. It was annoying in real time. Even though, like I said earlier, I wouldn't entertain in the playoffs, but I still want to see my young players and I want to see them come through, especially the offensive line. And they had played very well, and Rico's played very well. And then you go away from it. I'm baffled by that, in all honesty. And late in the game, when Cooper Rush was tasked to hit the receiver, he went over the head like 3 times and too far for Ferg's arms.
Yeah.
It was frustrating, man.
Yeah, and the only thing that I could see, and I don't want to be a armchair coach where like after the fact I know what happened so that I can make judgments. So, but I don't think that's what you're doing either. But since you said like that's how you felt in game, but I would say this that like relying on Cooper Rush to get you the dub and passing it, which we all know is McCarthy's tendency, when it doesn't seem like a good idea since it is Cooper Rush and we all know his limitations. But
You know, I think that's also what annoyed me too is that we've talked about Mike McCarthy needing to get out of his comfort zone, and he fell back into it hard with a quarterback you should not do that with. And while the run game is working, while you have something that is actively working, you go to the redhead to get it done. I don't get it. You saw some creativity with that like Turpin Wildcat fake pitch to CD, picks up 10 real quick. And so, like, the run game doesn't even necessarily have to always be Rico. You know, you can mix it up and be creative. Our draw plays were working, and actually, the play actions became very effective when we kept running the ball. And so, it baffled me that it became straight 3 steps, throw that thing. I that was killing me.
yeah, well, to be fair, he only did that twice, I believe, at least unsuccessfully twice, where he went 3 plays, all passes, and I was kind of shocked that Turpin didn't get in a lot of offensive touches. But in the second
Not
half, we
until
did
the
see him
second
like the play
half.
you mentioned. Yeah, yeah. So it's just weird to understand this man, but I'll give him grace or pass because I like I said, start there before we even wins this game. You know, play it close, and then hopefully there's a big play that goes in our favor. That's how you win this game. I think that's how they won it 2 years ago. Like it's just unfortunate that it didn't go our way. But so regarding Mike McCarthy, this was a pretty big hit on, or at least a pushback on the narrative that he's going to return. Now, me, I was always of the opinion that the man should have been let go after last season, at the end of last season. But I'm curious as to what you are thinking now and his likelihood to return, even if they do win out. I think they still control the destiny, at least for this week. If they win, you know, they still have a chance to go play, 2 weeks or, towards the end of December. So they're not officially eliminated. But yeah, and with Bill Belichick being hired, which is one of the guys I thought would be a good candidate to replace Mike McCarthy, um, I'm kind of like I already told you like I thought he should be gone. I'm not really gung ho on him returning, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm amazed he's made it this far. I thought that Green Bay game last year in the playoffs was going to be his last game as a Cowboys head coach. the fact that so many like quote unquote like cowboy actors, like Troy Aikman saying like, yeah, he expects McCarthy to be back next year. I think that's super telling. I don't think he just says that out of nowhere. I think like he's heard someone in the organization say like, yeah, we're seriously thinking about bringing Mike back. Like unless it's a catastrophe, he will be back next year. And you've heard Dak support him, although I feel like that's more corporate Dak just saying the right answer.
I don't think so. I think Dak really likes him.
Well, if you remember, like 2 weeks earlier, someone asked Micah about that, and Micah's like, "That's above my pay grade," and they're like, "Dude, what the hell? Like, he didn't support his coach." And so, like, I mean, the only other response is to support the coach. Then, or now I get the short end of the stick in the media, and Dak's never put himself in that position in the media since he's been here. So I think he just gave a corporate answer. To me, the Troy statement's just super telling. I feel like Mike McCarthy is good enough to get you into the playoffs. He's gotten you 12 wins before. You've been the number one offense. So, like, I'm not denying any of that. But his ability to adjust in-game, he's never really showed me. Like, I mean, we mentioned Turpin getting some touches, but it almost felt like Mike's like, oh, dang, we do have Turpin. All right. Like, it didn't even seem, like, intentional. It was just like, I don't know, Schottenheimer going up to me like, hey, you know we got number 9 over there? All right.
Or maybe he saw Turpin walking by him on the sideline. He's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about him. Let me go ahead and call it a play for him."
Oh, that was a brisk walk. That guy moves fast. All right.
Would you entertain the idea of Mike McCarthy coming back if there is a new play caller installed, and how unlikely that could be?
Man, I go back and forth on this because maybe he's a great walk-around coach, but I also hate the idea that my coach doesn't even call plays. I mean, like, if he's not calling plays, why is he there? Just to be the nicest dude?
Cultures, I don't know, protect the mentality of the team, keep them going in the right direction. I also think it makes sense
to... Dan Campbell role.
It makes sense to insulate yourself from play calling, that you do have a
But we didn't hire him for that either. We didn't hire him for that. He wasn't hired for culture. No, yeah, he was hired for the offensive mind. And if we can't even trust him to call plays, I feel like we're moving the goalpost closer to him so that he keeps the job.
I don't think that's true because he was hired and he was given Kellen Moore to call plays for him. So maybe he was hired. And I think he was hired more because he won a Super Bowl. He's been there before. But he had to work with Kellen Moore.
And he supposedly watched every single play in the NFL in the offseason. Which I'll be honest, if he watched every team's plays, he ignored every good play. He decided he's not stealing anything. He's not going to implement anything new to the offense. And if he's relying on the young guns, and yeah, he's there for vibes, but I don't know. I don't think that's enough. I think that's enough to get you to the playoffs, but I don't think that's enough to really get you further.
Yeah, that's always been my issue with Mike McCarthy, or at least after last season, was he always seems to have, or this team is nervous in the playoffs under him. And for whatever reason, I can't have another season if they get into the playoffs. That will be in the back of my mind. And if they show it again, then it's just like, what are we doing here? And it would be interesting to see a play caller come in, or an OC that knows what he's doing, or is, guy with an ideas. But I'm not sure how well that dynamic works, and that may be asking more questions. But I will say this. Mike Zimmer and his defense, oh boy, I'm starting to buy in. I've been kind of hitting that drum on Mike Zimmer, keep him around, or at least give him an interview before he leaves, or if there is a regime change. I like what he's doing, and I know Bones Fossil also has a lot of detractors and has been on his team has made some costly plays, but man, if we remember the Cowboys' special teams before he got here, they were so meh and so nothing, and were not a factor at all before he got here. So those two guys are interesting, but I can see. I guess I wouldn't go to town.
Zimmer's done enough recently to really get me interested in another year under him. I think like after 10 games. I was kind of sick of him. Now, to be fair, he was missing Micah. He was missing, his corners. The defense is looking good, and the defense is still banged up in different ways. But, I mean, he knew well enough to stop putting Donovan Wilson in coverage on a crucial passing down. He's like, all right, just blitz. Just blitz, bud. Hey, that works. That works. I mean, you can adjust. I appreciate that. So if he got an interview with the next dude, that's fine with me. Right now, it's really sounding like it's going to be him and the Mikes will be back together next year. That's what it's really sounding like. And we're going to have the same podcast next season where we go, oh, okay, is Mike going to be different this year? And then we're going to see 17, or we're going to see like 12 games of no, and then 5 games of that was impressive. And does the 5 outweigh the 12? And do we ignore potential playoff failure? I don't know. I'm done with this roller coaster, but I think I'll have to ride it one more year.
Okay, so also this is the other thing too.
But real quick, you mentioned Bones. I think fundamentally our special teams units are pretty solid. Of course, you want Orwari to run away from that ball. That's kind of personal. That was on him. I'm not going to blame Bones, although I wish that Bones put the fear of God in him strong enough that he would never think of overriding the right decision. But who is giving him the power to like have Brian Anger throw fourth down passes? Is that McCarthy?
Yeah, I think they have an understanding that, hey, Bones, if you see something you like, or maybe I think they mentioned this like a couple years ago, that if Anger sees something that he likes, the lineup, they can call an audible and then just do it without having to, call the actual play. That they have the freedom to do that.
Those three need to get together and rethink everything they're doing, because I hate every time we go for it on fourth down on a punt pass. Like, I cannot stand it. So like, I'll give Bones credit as far as like the fundamentals and the like technical things that each player has to do in special teams, but he's too bold for me, and Mike is too nonchalant, and the punter just wants his name said. That's a horrible recipe.
Oh.
That's a bad it hasn't worked. And even if it did work, it's not advisable.
No, yeah, you're right. The going for it on fourth down with Anger or whatever, that just cut that out, please, and then maybe we can go forward with Fossil, because I do like what he's done on returns or whatever, and how he got our kicker. All right, so the Panthers we go to Carolina this upcoming week, and I think this is also a big part of if McCarthy stays or goes, is how does he get this team to finish out the season? Because I really do think that was a big hiccup against the Bengals on Monday. So if he's still got these guys fighting, man, I think that's a big check for Mike McCarthy. I think that's a real positive note. And I don't want us to capitulate before we're actually eliminated from the playoffs. I don't want to see Trey Lance out there. I don't want to see us trying to tank for a better pick until we're officially eliminated. So I do want to see them go out and give Carolina a good battle. I don't want to see these guys quit. But I think it would also be a good win against Carolina.
Mike doesn't have a contract next year, so he's going to go for every win. I don't think you have to worry about that at all, unless we decided to re-sign him tomorrow. Then you can worry, because then we will put in Trey Lance. But he's going to be going for it. I mean, there's a reason he benched Tyler Guyton for Chuma Edoga. Like, Tyler Guyton's absolutely underperformed for where we picked him, but in most situations, especially if you're going to be back next year and you know Tyler's going to be here for a few years, you give him more reps. But this is Mike trying to win every game he can. So you put in Chuma. So I don't think you have to worry about Lance coming in at all, or any other backup or young player. I think he's literally putting out the best players he can. I think that's why he finally... I know there were members of the podcast who were really high on number 15 at running back. I think what we've seen is, let's be honest though. He's underperformed for what was said that he could possibly do here. Rico's overperformed, and you know what Mike's decided? He's given it to Rico 18 times and Zeke once or twice. Like, it's not a split anymore. He's going for it. He is putting the best players on the field.
I don't know why, but when you said 15, I was thinking Trey Lance. I was like, what are you talking about? No. But okay, I see what you're saying. And then, this is kind of this is aside, but I don't understand why people are blaming Mike on splitting the carries. I feel like that definitely came from the front office and not Mike saying, you know what, Zeke deserves equal touches to Dowdle.
You already don't have a contract. Have some stones. I mean, he clearly does now, and it's working. So maybe if he had done that 6 weeks ago, I might respect him more.
I think the Zeke fumble probably got McCarthy to win the argument and got to get Dowdle more touches. I think that's when it did flip about his case.
It was going to happen. So.
All right.
Oh, but did you still want to talk about Carolina?
I kind of feel like we covered it.
Okay.
I just think it'll be. I think it'll be a tough game, and like I said, it'll be a respectable win if they do get the W in Carolina, because I feel like they are trending the positive direction. And like I said, this was a devastating loss, so if they are able to rally and get a W on a short week, well, I think that's a good win for the Cowboys. But I don't really see. I don't understand Carolina that well, and I don't see where. It's not like the Bengals game. I thought the game definitely had a script to it or how to win it. This game, it just feels more like two teams come together. And NFL, as generic as that is, but.
No, honestly, the way, and we could talk about it around the NFL more, but the Carolina-Philly game, it's Chuba leading the way on the ground. Cowboys have a good run defense right now, so there's probably going to have to be some adjustment. They might rely more on Bryce Young than they did in that Philly game. On the other side, Saquon ran all the way through him, and of course Saquon's a completely different animal, but the way our offensive line's been blocking, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Rico. And I hope to God we see a lot more Rico than we do Cooper Rush. I hope to God. But, Carolina's a weird team, man, because there are points in the season where I'm like, that's the worst team in the NFL. And then now they're giving quality teams tough games. So it's definitely going to be more competitive than I think most people would consider when looking at the matchup.
You know what it was about Carolina when I watched them 2 weeks ago was that they could move between the 20s, but when it got into the red zone, they got in their own way. And I think other than Thielen, too, they don't have the go-to trustworthy playmaker on the offensive side of the ball.
Cowboys.
Yeah, and then you mentioned that the Cowboys have a good run defense. Do they? Because I didn't think they did.
I would say our run
if they plan to stop the run,
defense has been better than our pass defense.
I think the pass defense is bad if, depending on who's the cornerback out there, but it looks like everybody's healthy, or at least the Jordan Lewis, Diggs, and Bland. So I feel like that should be a win on the wide receiver DB matchup.
That being said, though, Bland and Lewis had tough play, and I get it. It's Chase and it's T. Higgins.
I was gonna say, man, those are just better wide receivers than anybody else.
But it wasn't close. And then the thing too is that Kendricks to me is great in the run game. Kendricks in the pass game is a nightmare. He is horrendous. And I think he's easily exploitable. Like when one of the big plays in that game, we're in zone and they have Chase move in motion and then just run a dig. And Kendricks has to be the guy to chase him. Well, Kendricks ain't chasing Chase. Kendricks ain't chasing me. Get out of here with that. If he's going downhill, all right. But it's like Donovan Wilson. When I see them in passing situations, I've given up on the play.
Well, let me leave you with this. On the Bengals in the second half, the Cowboys defense only allowed a field goal and had forced an interception up until the Bengals' last drive. So I think they'll handle Carolina.
Ian, Thursday night football, normally a snooze fest, but we had a high-scoring affair between division rivals, the Lions and the Packers. What are your takeaways after watching that?
Well, Amazon is lucky for one because they are no longer snooze fest because they are divisional matchups. And I think, as I said before, those games should be preserved for Sunday and Monday nights. But I don't have control over that decision. And you're right. This was a great game between two definitely playoff, I don't know, Two good teams. Let me just say that.
One's a major leader in the clubhouse for going to the Super Bowl, and the other one is, I mean, I think at the beginning of the season had a ton of hype and then kind of dropped it. But dude, they're there in tough games.
Let me say this about the game, man, and it has to do with Dan Campbell and the culture he's setting in Detroit that has me inspired, and I hope someday the Dallas can get it. And it's this man not scared of anything, and mainly the best example is him going for it on fourth down, and it's just the fact that he has the entire team believing that that's the best way to win. And also, if I may say, it also seems like he's taking back being a gutsy play caller or gutsy coach and taking that back from the nerds and all the people that say you got to go for it, fourth down here and fourth down there. Nah, man, he's just saying, bro, we're better than these fools. Let's go prove it out there on the field. And if we didn't do it that one time, we're going to do it again and again and again. So props to you, Dan Campbell, man. You have me inspired.
I'll be honest, I don't think that was developed through him just going, my men are better than yours. It was developed from, if this game goes to overtime, we're losing. I'm going for 2 right now. Because when he got to Detroit, it was a stink fest on that field. He had to trust the analytics because, I mean, you're just going to be punting 80 times a game if you never went for it. Now, once you start, you can't really stop. And to his credit, I mean, it works. He does have 2 fantastic running backs, good receivers, a tight end, a quarterback who's reliable. I mean, look, I'm not going against him going for it as much as he has, but I'm also not going to pretend that he does it because he's biting kneecaps. He did it out of desperation, and now he can't stop. And it cost him in the playoffs last year.
But Rudy, biting kneecaps is what he said from day one. So maybe it all was a part of the plan and not because he was desperate because they were losing.
If he didn't have Ben Johnson, he'd be biting kneecaps at 3-9 or whatever. He'd be Mike Vrabel.
Oh, nah, you throwing some dirt around on Dan Campbell, and I won't stand for it. But so that other team though, Green Bay. You were telling me something that they might be a dark horse in the playoffs?
You know, I do think they'll be a dark horse. Being that, you know, I'll be honest, I think my favorite in the NFC to go to the Super Bowl is Detroit. The game that they gave them, and I know Detroit's banged up, Green Bay's banged up too. They gave them a hell of a game. I like the way they use their weapons with their tight ends. With Watson being able to be a deep threat down the field, and then you got Jacobs running the ball well. And as long as Love isn't being a bobblehead, they're fine. And you could low-key say that about almost any quarterback. Goof threw for like 5 interceptions against Houston. They do go on to win the game, but I really do. I love the additions they made. Like bringing in Xavier McKinney this year, I think was a fantastic acquisition. And I do think that Love, in some aspects, has become a little bit more reliable, a little better. And bringing in Jacobs, I really like. I know Jones was great last year, but you didn't downgrade that much. So I think, honestly, when it comes to getting into the playoffs, I would favor them over even Philly. And that's a tough one. That's strictly not trusting Jalen Hurts because Philly has the best running back in the game. AJ is very reliable, and their defense is improved from last year. But Jalen, to me, is kind of useless.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Go ahead, sorry.
It's interesting you said, as long as Love isn't a bobblehead. But that's kind of true because if you look at the top teams in the NFC, I think it's the 2 top teams is the Lions, and I trust Goff. And then I would say Philly. But like you mentioned, Hurts, man, he can be a bobblehead too. And then if you look at Minnesota, they're pretty good. But do you really trust Sam Darnold? I mean, that man can be a bobblehead too. So I do think I get your point about Love is that I would say he's less of a bobblehead than the other 2 names that I just threw out there, not including Goff. But I want to go over to my dark horse contender in the NFC, and that would be the Rams. And then they played the Bills on Sunday. Man, I can't figure out this Rams team. But what I will say is I trust Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay because they've been there before and they've done it. And since they have that playoff experience, I feel like that makes them dangerous. And it seems like every player on the Rams has buy-in on whatever Sean McVay is doing. Now, they do have the biggest loss, of course, was Aaron Donald on the defense. And I still can't understand their loss 2 weeks ago to Philly. But getting a W over Buffalo, who I think is the second best team in the AFC behind Kansas City, man, that's impressive. And they do have their weapons with Nakua and Cooper, Cup, and like I said, Stafford is at the helm. So I feel like you got a really good coach and a really good quarterback. And as you kind of made the point with Green Bay, man, if LA can stay healthy and avoid injuries, man, I think they're a pretty dangerous contender.
I will say that win on Sunday against the Bills stunned me. And it was a competitive game. The Bills had a shot at it towards the end. It wasn't a blowout, but I truly thought that it was my lock of the week actually, that the Bills would cover 4 points it was on the road. I get it, but I did not expect the Rams to come out firing the way they did. Puka had a fantastic game. Kupp was obviously involved and playing well. They got weapons. They do. I think that's a pretty dynamic I think that's a great dark horse too, because I would not have picked them. I think I might have picked 4 teams above them. I definitely would have picked Minnesota above the Rams, but what the Rams have done lately, or I guess this past week, that's something to keep an eye out on going into the playoffs.
Yeah, it really just comes down to the quarterback and the head coach, I guess, for the Rams, because Minnesota is a good. Man, I like their coach too, but I just can't trust Sam Darnold if I see him do it.
The Rams and the Vikings have played this year, and the Rams won 30-20.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow!
Well, in a head-to-head matchup, they won. They've beaten the Seahawks are going hot right now. They've beaten the Seahawks. They had a tight game with the Packers. They lost that one, but I mean they were there to the end. So they've outside of that Philly game, they've had some pretty solid matchups throughout the season, and that's while banged up and replacing old stars. And I think for multiple games, they didn't have either Kupp or Puka. So now that they're healthy, I mean, that's dangerous.
Yep.
And
I gave him a lot of respect, but let me also say this, bro.
Yeah.
I was gonna say their uniform is absolutely stinky, and their stadium is just. I mean, they picked up AT&T Stadium and put it out in Los Angeles and gave it a nice little outdoor look to it. But I mean, that matchup on Sunday between the Bills, who also have a terrible uniform, bro, it was egregious. So, on one hand, I'll praise them, but aesthetically, they're a disaster.
Going on the jerseys, does it annoy you're the artsy one here? I'm not good at art at all, but it bugs me that when they release the jersey, they're like, oh, it's not gray or it's not off-white. It's seashell white.
Bone.
And it's – or bone.
It's bone.
Bone. What is bone? Does that bug you at all? Just say it's gray. What's wrong with just
I appreciate
gray?
the hustle. I appreciate the hustle and coming up with a new paint color that people can pay.
That's a
no, but I thought you were going to mention the worst part.
Gray. Go ahead.
I thought you were going to mention the worst part was the birthday candle numbers that are on the uniforms that have a gradient on them as well. And the weird little, I don't know what it is, but how it's a different material than on the middle. And it looks so peel off and
shiny.
stick on. It looks like candles, man. It looks like the birthday candles for 1/6 or I don't know, kid just turned 6 years old. Let's put that on there.
That's nonsense. Whoever designed those jerseys, don't design another one ever. Stop. Please. I don't want to see
Absolutely. It. And you know what? I might even just take away my Dark Horse nomination from you guys and put it on Vikings since I hate y'all's uniform so much.
I think I might retire after hearing that.
Okay, let's take a look at the AFC. Now, I did mention Kansas City and who I think will actually repeat and win. Buffalo is probably their biggest opponent in the way of stopping that. And if they I do, as much as I dislike the quarterback, I got to give him props that Josh Allen is probably, that man is hitting levels, as I'll say that. But a dark horse contender in the AFC. I'm looking around, and I'm not impressed by anything in the South. The East, I already mentioned the Bills are a top team, so that just leaves the North and the West.
Okay,
I don't
so
trust the Chargers.
How dark is this horse we're talking about? Because if we're talking about a light shadow, I'm going Steelers. But they are leading their division. I think if, let's say they have a better record than the Bills by one game at the end of this year, and you got Josh Allen traveling to Heinz Field, I think that'd be a fascinating matchup. I would love to see that. And I do think Mike Tomlin and the Steelers come out on top in that one. Which, dude, I mean, there are points of the season where I'm like, the Bills are the second best team in the league. So, I mean, that to me is just like how impressive Pittsburgh has been. But if I'm going for a darker horse, I'm about to pick a team that actually has a horse on their logo and go with the Broncos. Now, this is not quarterback led, but has a team with a bad quarterback made it all? Yeah, dude, you've seen it done in that same uniform. Peyton Manning was atrocious the year he won the Super Bowl. Atrocious.
Tim Tebow.
He got benched for Osweiler at some point in a playoff game. He was benched for Osweiler. So Bo Nix just has to not be bad. I do trust Sean Payton leading teams into the playoffs. We've seen him have success in the past before, and that defense is really damn good. So if I'm going for the darkest horse I could find, I'm going for the one with a white Bronco.
Interesting. I can respect that if they're playing in Mile High Stadium because we know that climate give players problems. And I do like that defensive shout, and I like the fact that you said, bro, forget that quarterback. It's more about Sean Payton and the defense. I get that. But just on the road, man, I feel like no matter how good that defense is, that quarterback just – I have to see him win one game first, but I think if they're on the road, man, I don't trust him to go far or anything. I figured the lights might be too bright for him in his first year. I mean, respectfully. But I think I'll go with Pittsburgh, man, because I still don't think people respect the fact that a team that is more focused on the defense and is led by its defense just doesn't make waves in the media like I wish it did. And so I'll say that the Steelers are my dark horse contenders, and especially too, I do feel like if Tomlin can somehow unlock this 2-quarterback system between Russell Wilson, or if the weather is weird or they need a spark, bro, you can put Justin Fields in the game and maybe get him loose on a couple runs. I think that's dangerous. But also, too, Rudy, you did name 2 names. Let me say this.
Okay.
If Cincinnati can somehow sneak their way in.
No.
Bro, they might be the darkest horse contender of all time.
Those are fake stripes on that tiger. That ain't real.
Man, that quarterback, the receivers, that offense. And I know people are saying that defense is terrible, but, man, I feel like they have something that can't be explained by numbers, obviously, because they are one of the worst. But they have the moxie, or just they're not scared. And I do like that about that Cincinnati
Their
team.
offense is absolutely playoff material, maybe even run in the playoff material, but that defense is not at all. Like, genuinely, I know we had opposing views on what McCarthy did, but I do think we gave them the game. I don't think it was one play. I think for that, you mentioned Cincinnati didn't do anything in the second half. Did the Cowboys? Like, was it 1 touchdown maybe? And I don't even know if that's true. We shut ourselves down, to be honest. Their offense, again, granted, very good. But I think if you put the Bengals and the Broncos in a stadium, I think the Broncos come out on top in that one.
What stadium are we playing at?
Oh, it could be the trash heap in Ohio. It don't
Either
matter. Either or. Dude, the Broncos went on the road in KC and honestly are a block field goal away from giving that team its first loss. That's on the road. All right, fair enough. You got me there. All right, it's time for everyone's favorite segment, the Pick'ems. Ian, I turn to you to let us know how we did.
Well, Rudy, I got some good news for you, my man. Bringing up the rear, Mr. X is feeling the pressure at the top, and he only recorded 5 wins since there was a push this last week. And in second place was you, Rudy.
Oh,
okay. Since you weren't last, I was saying it's still good news for you.
I appreciate it. That's all right.
You had 6 wins, and your boy came on top with 7 wins. That brings the totals to Mr. X, still in the lead, even though the margin is narrowing with 113 wins. Your boy in second with 111, and Rudy, you trail by 5 games just with 108.
Okay, gotcha. Well, let's go ahead and narrow that margin right now. Thursday Night Football, Ian, a team we talked about last segment, the LA Rams, traveling to Santa Clara to take on the Niners. But a divisional matchup. Spread in that one is Rams +3. Give me the Rams.
I like the way you think, Rudy. I, too, will take the Rams.
Great minds, bud. Great minds. Moving on to Sunday. Noon o'clock. We got the Commanders taking on the Saints in New Orleans. Spread in that game is New Orleans +7.5. I'm going with the Commanders there.
Yep. Give me the Commandies.
All right. We got the Miami Dolphins traveling to Houston, Texas. Spreading that one is Dolphins +3. And I will take the road Dolphins.
This is a tough one, but the Texans on a bye with the vengeance flowing through number 0's suspension. Give me the Texans.
Well, he can't knock Tua out the game, so
they'll do it for him to knock out Tua.
Tua will knock himself out knowing this dude. All right. Anyway, a matchup of the Jays. We got the Jets and Jags in Jacksonville. Spreading that game is Jags +3.5. Jesus Christ. Ian, you want to go first on this one?
I mean, it's so appropriate that it takes place in Jacksonville. I mean, these are 2 of the worst teams. I think there's a man, no way A-Rod can screw this one up, can he? I'll go with the Jets.
All year.
You're right, but still, ayahuasca gets right in Florida. Give me the Jets.
Is Lawrence? He's out, right? Is he back?
Yeah, I don't know, but I know. Yeah, the concussion he suffered 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. So.
All right. Yeah. Give me the Jets. That's a tight one.
Yep. For all the wrong reasons too.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, we have the Bengals and the Titans taking place in Tennessee. Spreading that game is Tennessee +5. I'll take the Bengals in that.
Yep, my dark horse contender continues to do well. Give me the Bengals.
All right. The Ravens and the Giants will be playing a matchup of the Super Bowl in the year 2000. The spread in that one is Giants +16.
Oh my gosh.
Dog, I think that's the highest spread we've seen all year.
That's incredible.
16, dude. Jeez, more than 2 touchdowns. Oh, I think Tucker misses a field goal to make the game finish in a Ravens victory by 15 points. Give me the Giants.
I think the Ravens will cover. Give me the Ravens.
That's such a nasty number. Good grief. All right. Well, the Chiefs are traveling to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Spread in that game is Cleveland +4.5. And what did Jameis do last week again?
His stat line? Or who did he play?
Or did they win?
No, they lost to Pittsburgh.
Game? Pittsburgh game.
No, that was 2 weeks ago.
Is it time for his bounce back? I will say it's time for the Chiefs to get it done. Chiefs -4.5.
Ooh, man. Man, Jameis knows how to show out against teams that are the top teams. So give me Jameis and the Browns to cover.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I respect it. Them boys traveling to Carolina, taking on the Panthers. Spreading that game is Cowboys +3. Ian, you told me you're backing the boys. You're also giving 3 extra points here. I am not going to be backing them. I will take the other boys in blue. Give me the Panthers.
Yeah. You put me in the corner, Rudy. I will take the Cowboys.
All right, cool. I was trying to. Now we got a matchup of Pennsylvania's. We got the Steelers taking the short drive to Philadelphia, taking on the Eagles. Spreading that game is Pittsburgh +5.5, and I'll take Pittsburgh there.
Yep, me too. Give me Pittsburgh.
All right. Moving on, we got to some a potential Super Bowl. Or just the biggest disappointment, depending on how the season goes. The Bills and the Lions in Detroit. Spreading that game is Bills +2.5. Give me the Lions. I can't trust the Bills right now. I don't know what the hell happened last week.
Yeah, I too will take the Fighting Dan Campbell's and his Detroit Lions.
Clean sweep. We got the Broncos hosting the item that they wear on their foot, the Colts. The spread in that game is Colts +4, and I'll take the Broncos there.
Where's this game being played?
Denver.
Oh, okay, yeah. Give me the Broncos as well.
All right, that's my dark horse, and it's actually a horse, unlike your measly tiger.
See, I think you got the assignment wrong. You just said, "Oh, there's a horse. I'll take them."
I think you were like, well, who's the last team I saw? The Bengals?
Who has a dark uniform? I'll take them.
All right. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to your favorite stadium, SoFi, to take on the Chargers of LA. Spreading that game is Buccaneers +3. Give me the Chargers.
Yeah, they seem to be playing everybody close, these Judges, but I'm a big believer in a hardball ball. So give me the Chargers.
I respect it. Low-key, a dark horse for being a dark horse, the Chargers. The Patriots are traveling to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Spreading that game is Patriots +6. It's time for the Cardinals to bounce back. Give me the Cardinals.
Man, yeah, they're a tough team to trust. You said this is in Arizona?
It is.
Okay. Yeah, I think I would trust Arizona to get the W and cover. Give me Arizona.
Right. We shall see. The Packers are traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Spreading that game is Seattle +3. And that's fascinating because I'm really liking the Packers right now, but you're giving the home team an extra 3, and Seattle's been playing well. Give me Zach Charbonnet and the Seahawks.
You said this is in Seattle?
It is.
Ooh, all right. That's a tough one.
This is Sunday Night Football, by the way.
That's a tough one, but I think I'll go with Go Pack Go to cover.
All right. Fair enough. We have a doubleheader on Monday night. We got a divisional matchup with the Bears and the Vikings taking place in Minnesota. Spreading that game is Bears +7.
I don't think that's enough.
And I'm
going to go
with the Vikings.
He steals my pick.
That's gross. I kind of don't want to, but I already said it. Moving on. The Falcons traveling to Vegas to take on the Raiders. Spreading that game is Raiders +4. And give me the Raiders.
I was gonna say, thank goodness there's 2 games after you read the Bears Vikings game, and then you read the second matchup, and now that's even worse.
It feels like the NFL forgot about those teams. They're like, oh damn, okay, they got to play someone. All right, just go against each other. Don't matter.
Yeah. All right, but I agree with you, Rudy. I think the Raiders got this one. Give me the Raiders.
The Raiders. All right, them's the pick'em. So I'll go ahead and gain some more ground on you chums, and I'll let you tell us about it next week. Ian, is there anything else we got for this?
Nah, let's get out of here.
Yeah.